Hi everyone, welcome back to my vlog. I'm Robin, or Hobbit's Reading List. Am I starting this vlog on a Thursday? Yes. I hadn't read until then. So let's just get into what I read yesterday. So I had mentioned it in last week's 2-week vlog that I had this work project that was due on Wednesday, which is yesterday. So Monday and Tuesday were pretty much devoted to getting that finished because I am nothing if not a procrastinator. So I didn't read. But yesterday the project was done. I also went to the office, so I listened to an audiobook during my commute. So let's just start there. I did also start reading a physical book. But the audiobook that I'm listening to is ADHD After Dark, which is about statistics and tips and stories, I guess, of how ADHD impacts people's sex lives. And I've had this book for a while, and it is really interesting, mainly because as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, yep, I can relate to that. Just because, I do have ADHD, and sometimes it impacts my relationship. So, yeah, it is very interesting. I had previously gotten, halfway through this book. I was on chapter 9. And then, for whatever reason, maybe ADHD, I stopped. So instead of just starting it over again, because I knew that was not gonna work, I just started the audiobook from chapter 9, and whenever I hear something that's like, oh, that's interesting, I'm pausing and doing a talk to text note on it so I can go back and highlight it later. And then that's part of the reason why I didn't just reread the book, because I had highlighted the parts that I had already read. And so all of the relevant information, or the parts that I had thought was really interesting when I first started reading it, are still there. I can look back over what I had highlighted. So hopefully people are like, oh, that makes sense, and not like, no, you need to reread it, because I'm not going to. Sorry. But I listened to two chapters yesterday. The audiobook is weird. So I'm listening to it on Spotify. I don't know if this is how it is on Audible or any other audiobook listening platform, but on Spotify there are way more tracks than there are chapters. And so what I figured out yesterday was chapter 9 was split into 2 tracks. And I'm not sure why, but it was. And so I listened to all of chapter 9, which took about, I want to say an hour yesterday. And then on the way home, I listened to all of chapter 10, which was only 1 track, which was 25 minutes. So it was just weird. And I had considered listening to chapter 11, but it was so long. It was 56 minutes. And I'm like, I am very tired. So I'll listen to that Friday. But I have 4 hours, 50 minutes left, which I think Friday, with going to work, going to temple, coming home, I think I should finish it. If I don't, I will definitely finish it by the end of the week. But it was really interesting because chapter 9 was sort of Sex 101 a little bit, and it had some mentions of how ADHD impacts people's knowledge of sex, or people's ability to talk about sex and stuff like that. So that was interesting. But I feel from what I remember, I feel the ADHD part was really big in the first half of the book. And now I think we're getting more general, which is interesting. It's not how I would expect that book to go. And because chapter 10 was about masturbation. And there wasn't that much about how people with ADHD, well, there was some things about how people with ADHD are maybe different from the general population in terms of how they, what they use masturbating for, or how they view masturbating. So that was, but like that was such a small portion of that chapter. And then I know chapter 11 is about porn. And so it just, I don't know if like after we cover these like general, like these like topic parts, if we're gonna get back to like the specifics of ADHD impact. I don't know, we'll see. But it is interesting. So yeah, there's that. And then I got to work, I had a little bit of time, and I started reading Do Butlers, Burgle Banks. So I am partway through chapter 2. So, and there, Wodehouse, Wodehouse sometimes, like, it's sort of similar to what Stephen King does, actually. He divides his chapters into sections. And so I, like, okay. Because my whole, like, threshold thing, where I, like, if read comes up on my spinning wheel, then I break the book into chapters, ask for a threshold. So, like, say a book has 13 chapters, I ask Siri to pick a number 1 out of 13. She picks 7. It's like, okay, so 7 is my threshold whenever it lands on read on my spinning wheel. I know this is very convoluted, but something about it works in my brain. And then when read comes up my spinning wheel, I ask her to pick a number between 1 and 7, and however many chapters she says is what I read. When books are broken into sections, I have to, well, I don't have to do any of this. It's just what works for me. I go through and I count not only the chapters, but also the sections. And so I don't remember how many chapters are in Do Butlers, Burgle Banks, but I think there were like 39, or 37 or 39 different sections, including chapters. And fucking Siri picked 3 as the threshold. So I'm just like, okay. All I have to say, so yesterday I read like 5 sections, which got me to partway through chapter 2. I do not always use that. Sometimes, like later today, I'm gonna go get a pedicure. I'm just gonna bring Do Butlers or Burgle Banks with me and just read it. So I don't always do this like very convoluted threshold thing. But sometimes I do. Especially if I'm catching like a snatch of reading that I think might be broken up. For some reason it just, I don't know. For some reason it works. Anyway, Do Butlers, Burgle Banks, let's talk about the actual book. Is about this village in England. I'm gonna go macro then go micro, I guess. It's a village in England where one of the main characters, Mike, his uncle Hugo, who's recently passed away, was like the owner of a bank, and he contributed a lot to the village, so a lot of things are named after him. So like there's Bond Bank, obviously, but there's also like Bond Library or Bond Park or, you know, whatever. And Mike is struggling to pick up the duties after his uncle's death, and this has resulted in his betrothed, I guess, Jill, I think is her name, sort of like feeling neglected. So there's some relationship issues like right off the bat, which is to be expected with Wodehouse. But the reason I bring up the village is because there's this, the first character we meet is Horace, and he's the lead of this like crime gang thieves thing, and he ends up in this village because he took the train to either collect money from people or to pickpocket money. I'm not quite sure. But he was in this village and he started noticing everything is named after Bond, and someone actually attempted to steal his money, and a woman, Ada, I think, stopped that thief and returned his wallet. And Ada is the secretary of Mike. Wodehouse always has so many characters that are just like revolving around each other. It's kind of hard to keep track of, but that's fine. So Ada and Horace go to lunch because he's very grateful for her, and that's where he learns that, you know, there's this like big mansion in the village where Mike lives, but he's disappointed that there aren't any like jewels or anything. But he, Ada tells him that Mike owns Bond Bank, where they like mint money. And so he's like, oh, well, that's new. And so he wants to try to rob the bank and the mint machine, I think. The thing that makes money. And so he's going to pose as a butler at Bond Place or whatever the house is called and try to like get in through that way. So hence the title, Do Butlers Burgle Banks? This one does. So the crime lead is going to pose as a butler, and that's going to sort of kick the thing off. So, I mean, honestly, I'm like only 17 pages in, so like it's not like super funny yet, which is fine. I am hoping that there's one book in particular, I think it was called Heavy Weather, that my dad mentioned was compared to like a time bomb or something. Like it was just things, as the reader, you could see it just escalating with all these different characters. And you're like, oh, it's going to reach its head soon. And when it did, it was so good. And it was so funny. And I've been waiting for that to happen again. And the reason I say that is because I feel like Heavy Weather also had like a crime element to it, of like a crime being committed. Well, I think most Wodehouse books do, but this one in particular, I feel like it had to do with theft in some way. And so I'm kind of hoping that'll happen again, because I think it's been a long time since I've really enjoyed a Wodehouse. I think lately it's been feeling kind of like a slog. And not that I don't want to read Wodehouse, because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the podcast with my dad. But like I want to like really like a Wodehouse book again. Like, because I'm pretty sure I gave Heavy Weather 5 stars. And I don't think that's happened since. So that's what I've read. And yeah, so now I'm gonna go running and then do things, and hopefully I will read more of Do Butlers Burgle Banks now that that work project is done. Morning. So I didn't film yesterday. It's because I didn't read anything Thursday. However, I did read yesterday. So I listened to 4 chapters, I think, of ADHD After Dark. It's getting into like more specific. Well, okay, so it went into. I remember the last part I talked about. Oh, I hadn't started listening to like the masturbation chapter. So it went into like masturbation, and then went into porn, and then it went to a different section about like specific like relationship issues and sort of like the statistics of like people with ADHD and how often they see these issues and how they can sort of like counteract that. And I'm still feeling like I'll have to like look over my like highlights and notes from the first half of the book, because I'm still feeling, except for the stats, because the author did like a survey of X amount of people with ADHD, I don't know how many, or X amount of couples where at least one partner had ADHD. And so he has these like stats that he like sprinkles in, which is interesting, but like except for those, I feel like it's still kind of general. Like I was kind of hoping for more about like not only about how ADHD brains often work, but like are there different techniques or different ways to talk about the issues in a relationship for people who have ADHD. Because speaking personally, my thought process is not always linear to other people. So like to me it's perfectly linear, and if people ask me to explain how I got from like A to F, like I can do that. But a lot of times, well, a lot of times people don't ask me to do that. But also, a lot of times it just seems like I'm completely random, or I'm thinking about something else while they're talking. It's like, well, no, you said a word, and that triggered the trains in my thought, the trains of thought to like crash into each other, and that's how I got to F. I'm like, it makes perfect sense. But you just don't think that way, and that's fine. And so I was hoping there would be more about like the differences of how people with ADHD think compared to their partners who don't have ADHD, and like how techniques to how to bridge that. Because while I think Chris and I do a good job, and sometimes he just like goes with it, I feel bad sometimes because I get frustrated that he doesn't get it. But he doesn't have ADHD, so so I was just hoping for more, because it's just feeling like a general sort of like sex self-help book instead of, it doesn't feel ADHD focused, which is frustrating because that's the entire reason I got it. So yeah, so that's sort of how I'm feeling. I have, I think, like 3 more chapters. Technically, if I didn't care about finishing chapters before I get to my location, I could have finished it last night. However, because, so I drove to Temple last night, and I had like 20 minutes left when I finish a chapter. But the next chapter is like 56 minutes long. And while I listen on 1.3 speed, so it's not actually 56 minutes, I'm like, well, I still can't finish it in 20 chapters. Or 20 minutes. And so I didn't listen to the rest of it, which meant that if I had listened to it on my way home, which I didn't, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to finish it, so I might as well save it till Sunday. If I had listened to it on my way home, I would have finished that chapter, sure, but then the other chapters are each like 20 to 25 minutes. And I think, because last night I left around like 9, so it only took me like an hour and 10 minutes. I'm like, that math doesn't, it may have added up. I'm not good at figuring out in my head the speeds difference. It may have, but I'm just like, I'll just listen to it Sunday. Because it's just so, I don't know, I was getting frustrated just because I felt like it was ADHD focused. So I will finish it tomorrow. I am driving to Illinois today, but I have like a work barbecue thing, and partners are allowed to come, so Chris is going to be with me, and I'm not going to make him listen to an audiobook on the drive when I'm dragging him to Illinois on his day off. I'm just like, I'm not going to add insult to injury here. But that was all I read. I am kind of worried. I mean, not seriously, but like, I feel like I'm kind of slumping, which is not good for many reasons. 1, I have a reading YouTube channel. But 2, my semester starts in 9 days. My semester where I'm getting a literature degree, where one of my classes has 8 required books for the semester. So I can't really afford to be slumping. But the work thing that happened a couple weeks ago, like that really got to me, and I just haven't picked back up. So I probably won't read today. I actually have a very busy day. Like, I'm gonna do my run, take a quick shower. Chris and I have a like health screening test for our insurance. Like, if you pass, you get, I think, like a certain discount or something. Or if you don't pass, I think you have to pay more. We've always passed, but it's still, so we have to go do that, which means we get to fast, which means that after we do that, we're gonna go get breakfast probably, because we'll be hungry, and then I have to run to the grocery store to make JRP Buffalo chicken dip to take to the barbecue, and then we have to go to the barbecue, which is an 1.5-hour drive, and then we'll be there for like 2 or 3 hours, and then we'll drive 1.5 hours back, and then probably by then it'll be like 8 or 9 o'clock. I'll be tired, and I have to go to bed because I have to work tomorrow, and I have to do that drive again. So I probably won't read today. I'm just guessing. I'm like, I'd be so surprised if I did. I mean, I guess the main thing, and I have a very busy day tomorrow, so I'm not really expecting to read do Butlers, Burgle Banks more tomorrow either. So really, this is just me listening to ADHD After Dark. So I will, I guess, check in with more of my thoughts. Maybe they'll be different tomorrow. Maybe the last couple chapters will surprise me. I kind of doubt it, but I will let you know. Okay, so I had intended on reading this morning before I filmed this. Yesterday I finished listening to ADHD After Dark, and pretty much what I've been saying all week still stands. It was still very general towards the end, and while informational, that wasn't why I was reading it. I was reading it for the ADHD specific information, and I didn't get that towards the end. So I still have to like look through my notes from like my highlights from the first half, but I went ahead and rated it because even if the first half was like very ADHD specific and like hugely informational, the back half still wasn't. So I just split the difference and I gave it a 3. Like, I can appreciate the work that went into it. It just sort of lost that specificity of why I was reading it towards the end. So that was a little disappointing. So there was that. And then this morning, I woke up at 3:30, took a shower, ate breakfast, because I was going to go with a friend of mine to the emergency vet in Chicago because she's fostering kittens and one of them is having some issues, and she was told that if she went in through the ER, she could get a CT scan ahead of like a specialist appointment tomorrow. So that's what we're gonna do. And I wanted to be there to support her because it's very stressful what she's doing, taking care of a sick kitten. Even though like he's totally chill, he doesn't know anything's wrong. But so I wanted to be there to support her. And we both were fully prepared to be there for like half the day. I brought do Butlers, Burgle Banks. I brought my Kindle. I was gonna sit and read. So we talked on the way there. We were chatting in the waiting room, and around the time where I'm like, all right, like we're gonna be here for a bit. Like I could probably pull out my Kindle. The vet came in and said that they couldn't do the CT scan. The ER like doesn't do CTs, and they could do the other procedure that my friend was hoping for, and then get them in for a CT tomorrow through like the appropriate department. So we were there for like 2 hours, maybe not even that, like an hour and a half, and then we came back here. So I didn't read anything. I am going to read today since I had canceled everything I had planned. I wasn't planning on doing anything except being in a waiting room. So I'm just gonna take today as like a me day. So I'm gonna read, but that's gonna be in next week's vlog. So so this vlog is pretty much just about ADHD After Dark and like a little bit of do Butlers Burgle Banks. So that's it. I'm so sorry I didn't read more. I'm hoping that next week's vlog will be chock full of things because it's my last week before school starts. So let's see what I can get done. But I will talk to you then. Make sure to leave a comment, like the video, subscribe, click the notification bell, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye.